The corner, the corner, the corner. Hey, welcome. Come on into Cousin Ed's Corner. This podcast is where you will find real, authentic conversation. Organic conversation. Like you're at home with your cousin. It's about life. It's about finance. It's about spirituality. It's about love. And everything in between. I'm your host, Cousin Ed. I'm excited to bring you along on this journey to explore life. Listen, let's sit back and enjoy a wide range of topics. I have some diverse guests coming on, a wide range of spectrum of thoughts. My goal is to create a space for all of us to connect, all of us to learn each other, and all of us to communicate. It's really not about me. It's about a community as a whole. Let's enjoy this. Let's sit back. Let's think about our past. Let's move into our future. It's about the corner, the corner, the corner. So no matter how you cut it or slice it, we're all here together. I'm just here to give you a piece of my heart, my mind, my soul, and my mentals. So sit back, relax, and enjoy another episode of Cousin Ed's Corner. The corner, the corner, the corner. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. We are back. We are back. We are back. Cousin Ed's Corner back at you again. No matter how you cut or slice it, we all here together. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Let me bring this level down a little bit. All right. I am so honored and so pleased to have a special guest on the show this week for another episode of For When My Sister Wins, We All Win. But I'm gonna do this a little different. I brought her on for this show, but I'm going to actually release it on a Friday show because she's special to me, and I wanted her to be part of Thank God for Everything. And I wanted to thank God for our relationship, our friendship, and her being part of my extended family. And I wanted to have her on this episode. So it's a two-part episode, a twofold episode. She's a sister that's out here doing big things, that's winning in this world, doing positive things. But I wanted to have her give her insight in thanking God for everything. So without further ado, thank you, Devon Croom. Please, welcome to Cousin Ed. I can't say welcome to you. You've been here before, so welcome back to Cousin Ed's Corner. You know where it's God episode, so you know where the crackers and red stuff is in the cabinet. So welcome back to Cousin Ed's Corner.
Thank you. It's definitely an honor. Good to see you, family. Good to see that you're blessing the community as well. But it's a pleasure to be back.
I appreciate it. Now, I will give some context here. She is so sweet. I'm going to try to ask her to open up some, be comfortable, sit back and relax, get on the couch. You just came downstairs and just have fun and just vibe with us. So really, I want you to introduce yourself. Some people have heard you on another show before with myself and my brethren, Destrian Wells, but some people don't know you. So this audience has grown so much. I like for them to know who you are. And I always joke around and say, don't give them the pamper story about, when I was way back, but give them a little bit of context about who you are. And just bring them up to date who they're hearing from.
Yeah, I appreciate it. So I am a woman of many hats, and it's definitely my pain turned into my purpose. And if you're looking for a title, I am a career, life, and marriage coach as well as an author. My whole game in life is to help men and women to identify roadblocks, strongholds that they have in their head and their mind that's stopping them from being their best selves, that's stopping them from meeting their goals, right? Having a conversation with me is authentic. I help them identify roadblocks, change mindsets, build character traits that will help them overcome any life adversity. So that is just a summary of what I do. But one of the most authentic coach you will ever meet, because I like to share transparency, what I've been through. And it's been a lot that I've been through. And for me to survive, this is my way of giving back to my community.
Amen, amen, amen. Well, she's modest. She's authentic, like she just said. She's modest, but she is a power player in the professional technical space. She is helping others in the community. She's a wife. She's a mother, aunt. She sees so many, like she said, she wears many hats and she's modest about it. But I want to give you your flowers while I can give you your flowers, and keep congratulating you on being who you are, successful, and just being accomplished and continuing to grow in everything that God has for you. So I want to say that to you publicly, as I always will say it privately to you. I'm so honored to know you and have you as part of my extended, but I'll say family, not even only extended family. This is part of my friendship, part of my circle, part of my somebody I can call on at any time. So definitely, people, by the end of this show, you'll know more about her, and I'll make sure that we give out her contact information if you ever want to reach out to her. But in saying all that, this show is kind of we talked beforehand, and she wanted to know what the show was going to be about, and I wanted to talk about grief. I want to talk about people who have to go through it. We all have to go through it one day, and one of her topics that she mentioned is getting over, getting past, moving forward. How do you move to the next stage in something in life? Mm-hmm. And right now, for those who know me, those who don't know, my family's going through a challenge. I'll say not many. It's not small. It's a challenge. I've lost someone in my immediate family, and just wanted to talk to her about how people get past grief. I know you and your husband and your family suffered like many of us did throughout COVID. And how do you step up and go to the next level? So I know you want to give some background to your counseling. I know it's not in grief counseling, so you can go ahead and give your credentials in that. But we just want to have a conversation about life in general and people.
Yeah, for one, as always, and what we would continue to do is pray for you and the family during this challenging time. I'm going to tell you, the loss of a loved one is not easy. And there's a saying that says, hey, things will get better in due time. I don't know if that's necessarily the truth. I think it's just a matter of us coping with it, right? Mm-hmm. And just to share with, and this is just being authentic, back in 2020 when COVID first hit, 7 family members caught COVID, 3 of us went into the hospital and came out, but 4 of us went in the hospital and only 2 came home, So my husband, he was on a ventilator for 17 days. And at that time, life expectancy at the max was 5 days on a ventilator. So to lose his father the first week and go into the hospital, and then the following week we lost his uncle, it resonated some pain that I felt as far as grief back in 2015 when my father passed away in January, and that April that same year his father passed away. So, they say, hey, it'll get better with time. I'm not necessarily sure if that's the case, but it's just a matter of how we deal with it, right? Mm-hmm. I think it's important for us to recognize that the word says that God said, it's very clear that we don't know the day nor the hour, right? And I know we here physically still living is really mourning the loss of that loved one, because we have a heart and we have emotions. How are we to deal without this person? Because they were such a connection. They were such the glue to the family. Mm-hmm. I think it's wise to understand that there are 5 different cycles that the mind goes through when it comes to grief. And please don't let anyone tell you got to rush to it, or it's a certain time frame. You got 5 weeks to feel this expression. 2 weeks, it's been a year, you should feel better. That's not the case, because everybody is different. I think it's important that you at least be aware of the symptoms and what cycles that your mind goes through, and you can bounce between these cycles until you get to the final stage, which is acceptance. So you first go through denial and the fact that, did I just lose this loved one? Or I could have sworn we had plans for this weekend to go somewhere, or I'm expecting to pick my aunt or my uncle up and we're going out to lunch, we're going out to dinner. It's more of a denial phase, it's a matter of, is this a dream or not? And I can tell you, when I got the phone call that my father passed away, when I got the phone call that my father-in-law passed away and my husband was still on a ventilator, it was like, this is just a bad dream. I'm gonna let this bake for a couple of hours, lost for words, couldn't process anything. So knowing how what that feels like and what it looks like is called denial. So you want to be mindful of that. We can get angry with God because our loved one's been taken, and that is a fact. And that is something that people experience, right? You get angry, you get emotional disconnect from anyone that's around you. So that's another phase, and that's another experience. And the other thing to keep in mind too is this bargaining thing. Like, God, just give me another day, or I wish I could have spent more time. And a lot of us get stuck. And when we get stuck, we sit in a state of depression. We sit like on a hamster wheel, whether it's the denial, anger, bargaining, or just sit there in depression. We just sit in that state for a long period of time. You're not motivated to do anything in life, want to stay in your room, don't want to go out and interact with the public. Your room is dark, you have no desire to eat. That depression state, like the negative self-talk in your head, has been magnified, right? Or you're not forgiving yourself for something you may have said to your loved one. You didn't have an opportunity to say, I'm sorry, or forgive yourself. I think it's wise for us to understand when we lose a loved one, those 4 different cycles can bounce back and forth. And we get to the point where we do accept it, which is the 5th cycle. I'm going to tell you now, that anger stage for me, that denial stage for me lasts for a good little minute. Because I love my father. I love my grandfather. I love my father-in-law and my uncles that passed. They were the best men that represented any type of, one that protects, one that demonstrates what a true man's supposed to look like, providing for the family, protected me. It was a safe space for me. And it was really hard for me to process the fact that I'm no longer going to have someone living physically to refer to. Now, you asked the question of how you can get from that unstuck stage. Everyone is different. Keep that in mind and be patient with yourself. I would say set aside some time where it's alone time with just you and cry it out. If you got to find a punching bag, if you got to find a pillow, beat it out in the pillow, in the punching bag, get it out. I'm curious to know, cousin, if you ever felt in your body tension, like in your shoulder area,
yes,
or stiffness in your hip, certain aches and pains in your body that is magnified in certain areas. Those are the emotions that are stuck within our body. Researchers have shown that there are trauma that sits within our body. And if we don't do anything to either walk it out, way to manage those stress, those things can propagate into health challenges where we have high blood pressure, where we have eating, because we're emotional creatures, we just eat, we have some type of health issues that comes about.
Migraine, everything. Yeah.
Yep. So you got to give yourself time to grieve, fight it out with a pillow, get a punching bag, but give yourself time to cry, alone time to cry. And I think that is the first thing you want to recognize, because it's important for you to cry and get it out from body outward. And at the same time, you need to scream and talk to God about how you're feeling.
Well, that right there, like I tell everybody, this is my therapy. This show right here is my therapy, and able to talk to people that are like I said, different spectrums, different thoughts, and you may think you know something, but until somebody else tells you another side of it, you learn something else. And for me, everything you just touched and talked about, I've experienced with death previously. And it's different at different stages in your life. As a kid, you may handle certain things a certain way. As an adult, you change and you grow and you learn a little more and you handle it a different way. And I just look at my family now and look at each avenue, each person, and see where they're coming from or where they're at in their life. You know, there's a 10-year-old, how does he handle it? There's a 14-year-old, how does he handle it? There's somebody who else is 70 something years old, how do they handle it? And like you said, every part of that, every piece of those 5 stages you said, each person will be going through a different stage at a different time, you know, at the same time, different stage, same time. And they all have to still interact with each other. And I remember, my grandmother passed. I was 13, maybe 12 or 13. And I made myself not grieve because my mother was grieving. And I was angry at that time because God took my grandmother. That's a 12-year-old. And so you can see all the different aspects of people. And it took years for me to grieve and understand, you know, try to have an understanding of what God, you know, did, why, and, you know, better place. And sometimes you don't even want to hear that. Better people telling you stuff, you don't want to hear that. And to move forward it takes time. So I'm glad you mentioned that. Some people believe you have to get over things immediately. And I think about, it's part of what our past conversation about just trauma in general. You can't tell somebody to get over trauma immediately. You know, you should be okay with X, Y, Z. It's like somebody saying you have cancer, you need to get over it, or somebody saying using a car accident. You can't tell anybody when is their time to get over it. You can ask them, you can try to help them cope as best you can, but it's all in due time how they will be able to handle it. So I appreciate those 5 stages. In saying all that, how can you, not you, us people, help someone cope with it? Is it space always? Is it coddling? Is it, or you have to massage the situation best as Clay can and figure out what they need?
Yeah. Yeah, I think everyone is different, and you have to be able to look at that individual and see what they need. I think the best example is the example that you can demonstrate. I like to use an analogy. You think about your children when they were young, or nieces and nephews if you don't have any kids. When they were learning to walk, they watched you walk back and forth all day. You held their hands and let their hands go. And with fear, they took a step. They saw you take a step. They saw you trip. They may have seen you fall, but you got back up. And that encouraged them to walk independently. So we got to mimic and we got to show an example of what to follow so we can have a healthy way of dealing with grief. Because a person that doesn't have a vision or a good example on how to manage these emotions can take anger into actions, damaging someone or something, and give repercussions, and people will look at someone differently versus this person was actually dealing with some grief or mental illness. So I think it's wise that we start off by demonstrating what grief look like and identify the emotions. For example, if you go to a loved one and you can see they're not making any eye contact, embrace them with a hug, especially if they're open with it. I think it's power in the touch. Truly, there's power in the touch. It just give them that good old grandma, grandpa hug, right? A lot of times we don't take the time to really sit in each other's presence because we have so much technology. We have so many other things that are trying to get our attention, which is preventing us from properly healing. And the only way we can properly heal is that we got to sit in that emotion, identify that emotion. If a person is sad, say I'm sad. If a person is upset, say I'm upset. And give that person an outlet. You be their sounding board so they can express their emotion and not judge them. It can be 3 months later after the loved one has passed away, and it may be in that same state, but give them grace, give them, and be patient with them. That is the first thing, and meet the person where they are. The other thing is, whenever you are feeling sad, demonstrate what that looks like. I'm not feeling my best today, so I'm going to walk in a park. I'm not feeling my best today. I'm going to pick up the phone and talk to my therapist. You know, a lot of people may feel...
That's a key thing right there. I want to stay right there. A lot of people may feel, and I hopefully is what you were going with, that therapy is not needed. And I mentioned this on the show many a times. Don't suffer in silence. And you may have people and family and friends around you, but there are people who have techniques, who are trained, who will listen first and know how to deal with grief or anything you're going through. And you may have to find the right one that made the one right for you, but don't suffer in silence. If you need any help, I'll definitely leave her information at the end of this show. But if you need any help, you need somebody to listen to. I'm not a therapist. I'm not going to say that, but I'm always an open ear. Yeah. And I will try my best to find any kind of resources I can for anyone that is a listener here. But definitely do not suffer in silence. I'm sorry that I added. I think that's where you was going with it.
No, yeah, absolutely. I'm on the same route as you. And life coaches, they're there. We're here. That's what we're here for. And here's the other thing. Some people feel led to have their support animals. Some people get dogs. Some people get cats. Right. Some people like to visit like the animal shelter and just spend time with the animals. It's nothing like having a animal, dog, cat, however you want to identify, to speak to, and they won't judge you, right? Mm-hmm. They won't say, "Oh, shucks, you still talking about this?" That is a outlet in which you can leverage those emotions that you're going through. Support groups. There are so many support groups that's out there. You got to look it up in your local area. And someone typically, if it may not be a handful, but it's always one person, whether it's a wise person in your work community, in your community at your home, church community, or just that one friend that is very compassionate. Allow that person to be your sounding board to say, "Hey, I'm not feeling my best. I'm missing my mom. I'm missing my aunt," whoever that loved one is that passed away. Leverage them as your outlet. The key thing is, you said it perfectly. Do not suffer in silence. Do not incubate your emotions. You have to get it out, because otherwise it will burst. It doesn't how long. It can be a minute, a month, or it can be years, but it will eventually burst and will come out in the wrong way. But you definitely got to get it out.
Well, I definitely wanted to have this conversation and have you on and talk about this. She is super dope. We have so many more things to talk about. She's been traveling and I've been sporting it out with the kids, and we've been having a little bit of scheduling conflicts, but I think we're going to get everything on board for a couple more episodes of her coming on and speaking about some of her background. But I definitely want to talk about your book. Let's go ahead and tell the audience about your book. Is it books? I think it's plural now.
It's plural now.
It's plural. See, talk about your books and go ahead and give them your website, and we'll definitely have her back on to talk about some of the other relationship conversations, some of the business conversations, and like I said, she's super, super dope. So I just wanted to make sure we had this conversation today. But she's gonna be back on an official When My Sister Wins, We All Win. That way we can find out more about her and what she's doing in her life and helping others.
Absolutely. Thank you, cousin. I appreciate it. So my first book is a memoir. It's available on Amazon and on my actual website, which is devoncroom.com. It is called Abused But Not Broken. It is a chronological order of trials and tribulations that were presented to me as tests that became my testimony. I faced colorism. I was violated at the young age of 15. I became a young mom and survived an abusive relationship. I actually went from being emotional, physical, and spiritually abused to crying out to God, surrendering to Him on, "Hey, take my life," because this is just too much for me to handle. And when I looked over and I saw my child crying and screaming, it was an aha moment as to, this is my motivation. This is why I have to live. And I see now that my pain became my purpose, because everything that I wish I had growing up, I have become, and which motivated me to become a life coach. So I am what I needed to many. So in sharing my story on podcasts and traveling and connecting, I ran into a group of women. It was 22 of us. We all had similar stories, and we were all Black women and who were authors. So we decided to do a collaboration together, and that collaboration was published, and it's called My Sister Helped Me Heal, Volume 4. So if you go to my website, Devon Croom, DevonCroom.com, if you select the option that says books, you will be able to get an autographed copy of each book. They're available. Thank you in advance for your support. And I am available on Instagram as well as on Facebook. It's at Coach Devon Croom.
She, like I said, she's super. She's leaving a whole bunch out. She's leaving a whole bunch out. I'll pull a little bit more out of her as we have more conversations. But definitely check her out. As always, if you want to leave a voicemail for any of the guests or for the show itself, leave a text. Leave a text at 762-333-2032. That's 762-333-2032. If you want to leave a voicemail, go to cousinedscorner.com. That's cousinedscorner.com. Across the top of the page, you'll see leave voicemail. You can leave a voicemail for the show. And I definitely share all text and voicemail with any guests that appear on the show and try to play them back on another episode. So please do that. But as you were speaking about your first book, about your memoir and the show itself, thank God for everything, right? Mm-hmm. I want to thank God for you and that moment of the aha, of the I'm here for a reason. And thank God that he delivered you from that moment. Mm-hmm. I want to thank God for each and every person out here that is listening to this, that shares this, that hears this, that when you're in your darkest moment, believe and remember he's with you. I normally give this prayer, especially to a lot of the kids I mentor, but don't forget that he walks beside you and he's your friend. Don't forget he walks in front of you and he guides you in your path. Don't forget he stands behind you and covers you. Don't forget that you stand on his shoulders for strength. And he's always above you as a star, as a light, as something that is protecting you. And he's always with you. So in that moment, he was with you. And I'm glad, I'm happy. I praise him for that and for his ever covering. So over you, your family, each and every one of us. So I just had to give that testimony, Amen. That prayer.
Thank you
for this. Thank God for everything. So my sister, I love you. I love you. I love you. Each and every person out there. I love each and every one of y'all. There's nothing y'all can do about it. I appreciate you. Please give blessings to the family. And we'll be back again. Peace.
We will. Hey, y'all. This is Coach Devon, owner of DC Consulting. You can learn more about my services and purchase my books at DevonCroom.com. That's DevonCroom.com. When I'm not listening to my cousin's Ed's Corner, I'm traveling, enjoying date nights on Fridays with my hubby. That's my Boaz, y'all. And thanking God for another day.
Thank you for listening to Cousin Ed's.